Brandon Curry shocked everyone with his physique at the 2025 Arnold Classic, especially after his underwhelming Mr. Olympia performance, but his last version was not that far behind his prime, and in certain areas he might have looked the best ever. He finished in a very respectable 4th place behind the big 3 favorites Derek Lunsford, Samson Dauda and Andrew Jacked, but some people are questioning if he was actually overlooked and possibly robbed of at least a 3rd place finish. So in this video we're going to compare Brandon Curry and Andrew Jacked at the 2025 Arnold Classic to see what's up. Front double biceps. It's hard for anyone to deal with Andrew Jacked in this pose, but besides losing a pose, it's also important how you lose it, how close or not it is between them. So what do we have here? Andrew obviously has the overall size advantage. He's the tallest and arguably widest athlete in the circuit today, and he also has plenty of muscle on that frame. So Andrew would dominate pretty much anyone from this point of view, including Brandon. Now proportionally, Brandon is upper body heavy, where his upper body is as voluminous as Andrew's overall, but there's always the legs with him. But it must be said that his legs might have never looked as good as they do now, and considering he's 42, that's a shocker. Moreover, Brandon presented an unseen level of dryness and vascularity. Tyler Mannion said this is the best Brandon since 2019. And I think I agree. Brandon also wins the arm against Andrew, and I mean the arm, because only his right arm beats Andrew. His left one is shrinking and it's not even funny. Overall, Andrew wins, but Brandon has all the tools to make it almost close. The front lat spread is usually Andrew's runaway pose, but he's dealing with this revived version of Brandon who, back in the day, had one of the craziest front lat spreads of all time. He's the only athlete I know who has thick, round arms and shoulders who looks this way in the front lat. So this is where he beats Andrew, having rounder shoulders and triceps. Brandon also has a great taper with wide shoulders and a tiny waist plus great lats. Andrew is Andrew. He's got bigger and better tools overall, but his execution is modest, and even though I will still award him the pose, it's again really close, and this could impact the final result. Side chest pose is next, and before this show, this would have always been Brandon Curry. From the side, his wheels become a strong point, and the completeness and roundness of his upper body would put anyone in difficulty. However, Andrew's reinvented execution coupled with his huge frame balances the scale here. There would be a lot to dissect here, like Brandon having the nice round shoulders and arms opposed to Andrew's squarish body parts, or Brandon actually looking a bit drier but Andrew looking bigger and fresher. One thing's for sure, a pose this tight will not decide the fate of this comparison, so let's move on. Back double biceps. This is where Brandon starts to have the upper hand against Andrew. Brandon has one of the most underrated backs, and probably the reason it gets so overlooked is because of his very weak lower body from the rear. His rather small glutes, softer hammies, and almost non-existent calves, everything covered by this thick skin phenomenon, make Brandon often lose this pose while having the better back. But on the other hand, we have Andrew with an even less impressive lower body than Brandon at this show. His glutes and hamstrings were too soft, even in comparison to Brandon, which says a lot. Upper body is a blowout, Andrew can't compete with Brandon's back, and Brandon also has the rounder and more complete guns. This is an obvious point for your 2019 Mr. Olympia. Let's get 25 new subscribers with this video, and I'm gonna do Samson versus Brandon next, regardless of who wins this one, since many people actually believe Andrew was better than Samson at this show. Back lat spread, and while downstairs we obviously have the same story, so Brandon has the minimal advantage already. Upper body is also looking similar. In this way, Brandon is winning again. Now both of them look worse in this other back pose, and especially Andrew, who besides not having the thickness, also had an issue opening up in this pose at this show, so no chance for Andrew against Brandon from the back. Brandon wins both back poses convincingly, at least in my opinion. Side triceps is next, and at first glance you may be fooled by this picture because it looks closer than it actually is, with Andrew looking like a bigger version of Brandon but with a longer arm that he cannot flex to the maximum. So I wanna take you back to the footage I showed you in the beginning to showcase what was wrong with Andrew's side triceps, because again, pictures can fool you. The issue with Andrew is that he really couldn't fully lock into the pose, and regardless of what Milos or others would say, it's not a good look. He couldn't even capitalize on the midsection even though he's got one of the best ever, because he let it out of control and breathed heavily through the stomach. The footage also shows how Brandon is a master of posing and why he's taking this pose overall. The abs and thighs is easy. Nobody beats Andrew jacked in this pose, at least nobody except maybe Hadi Choopan. Now, Brandon looks good for Brandon, but that's kinda it. Despite his great aesthetic look, his abs were always washed out and his legs never matched his incredible upper body, so this was kinda always his least impressive pose. On the other hand, Andrew has probably the most beautiful set of abs in the world, and coupled with his proportions and pretty good legs, it becomes the most dominant win in this entire matchup. Most muscular pose, and just like for the side chest, aka the side most muscular, before this show, this used to be a no-brainer between these two. However, due to mostly improved posing, Andrew became very impressive in the most muscular and closed the gap between him and everybody else. However, he's going against arguably Brandon's strongest pose. Brandon's round arms and shoulders plus the chest and the tight midsection pose a great response to Andrew's improved most muscular. Furthermore, if we go into Brandon's better variation, which is the crab, I don't think I have any other choice but to award him the pose overall. However, with the asterisk that it may be as close as some of the poses Andrew won in the beginning, because his improvements in this pose with both variations are a huge step up. So Andrew won the first two front poses, but it was actually close. The side chest was a toss-up while Brandon dominated the back poses, plus he won the side triceps in my opinion. Andrew won the abs and thighs, and the most muscular was a toss-up again. So it would be 3-3 on poses with the side chest and most muscular being very tight. Since Brandon won his back poses more convincingly than Andrew won his front poses, for example, it could be argued that Brandon could have outplaced Andrew jacked at the 2025 Arnold Classic. I'm gonna put it like this actually, if Brandon took third and Andrew fourth, I would have been totally okay with that. Let me know your thoughts on this matchup in the comments below, like the video and subscribe to support my work. See you in the next one.